I'm like, watch this, not like pre-record and work out right. But all right, everyone who watches this on the premiere, JT, we are here with my buddy Jason from Sinister Cinema Reviews. Thanks for coming, Jason. And I know it was a last minute thing, Lauren, so thank you for that.
Oh,
And
that's
we
not a
have
problem.
the great Lauren Marie Taylor from Friday Part 2, who plays Vickie. Welcome.
Well, thanks for having me. I don't know where you guys are, but
I'm in New
it's
York.
like,
It is so hot.
yeah, I'm in New York too. Hot as
I'm in
hell. Are
Long
you in?
Island. Long Island.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
It's
John.
like
Yeah.
98 degrees out here.
Yeah.
It's really
Well,
hot.
I'm up near the Catskill area, and
Okay.
it's horrible here too. I mean, I just got out of the shower. I
Yeah,
had to take another
that's
shower.
that's why I got my AC blaring right now. It's so bad.
Yeah. Lucky
So
you, ours is on the fritz.
I got to check out more of your Not the Final Girl podcast. I put that down in the thing, guys. So if you haven't checked it out, check it out because first of all, the name is awesome. Just the name alone is great. To be able to take that, not being a final girl, and just throw that in there, cool stuff. So
Oh, thanks.
when
Yeah,
when did
it's fun.
when did you first get into acting, or know that that's what you wanted to do?
Ooh, I kind of fell into it when I was in high school. Like I used to always watch, obviously I grew up with Gilligan's Island. I always wanted, to be on Gilligan's Island. I wanted to be on the Beverly Hillbillies. I wanted to be on F Troop. But I didn't want to be an actress because I just thought that they were little people that lived inside your television. I thought I don't want to be that little person that lives inside of somebody's box in their house because I was really naive. Um, but it wasn't until I was in high school and they needed a girl to burn at the stake in a show, and
Why
it was
not?
a play. It was called Indians, which of course now it wouldn't be called Indians, it would be called
Yeah,
something
exactly. Not in this not in this world.
which is funny because just on the side note, my uncle is Choctaw, and he used to call himself a redskin. He
Yeah.
used to call me a monkey, a huktuk shui, because I have 32-inch arms. But anyway, so he was very happy when I got the role of an Indian
Yeah.
princess who gets burned at the stake. So I liked it so much, and it was an all boys school where the play was. That's how I kind of fell into it. And then it was soon discovered that I could sing too. So I went the whole musical theater route, and I was lucky. I got discovered by Ali Sheedy's manager at the time, and she said, "Have you ever thought about doing TV commercials?" And I was like, "No." And a month later, I booked a 3-year gig to do all the Burger King commercials and jingles.
I got to try to see if those are still out there somewhere. Maybe on YouTube somebody uploads like commercials, old commercials.
No, my brother has scoured the internet for
For
them.
them, yeah.
Other people have scoured the internet, and
Yeah, that would be cool to have.
it would have been cool to have. It's probably on a VHS tape somewhere in the bowels of storage.
Yeah, and it's probably in the world existing somewhere, but unfortunately we can't find it.
Right.
So how did the whole Friday thing start with you with casting? And did you see the first Friday before working on this?
I didn't see the first Friday in the movie theater. After Steve Miner put us all together, they had a screening of it for us to watch to see what we were going to get ourselves into because they're very similar in terms of camp counselors and setting and all that stuff like that. But the casting director had put me in a bunch of commercials previously because I must have done by the time I booked Friday the 13th, I was what 3 years into doing commercials at that point, 2 years in. So I
Mhm.
must have done at least 100 commercials at that point.
Wow.
And she knew me very well. And when it said, all American bookish girl, she's like,
Mhm.
Lauren.
That's
So
cool.
they called up my manager and I went in for the audition and I pretty much booked it right then and there. And that was kind of cool.
No, that's great. And look at what it turned into after that.
I had no idea that would happen. And,
That
I
was going
still,
to be a question. Was did any of you guys think that it would? Because obviously it was a sequel to a very popular, independent, cheaply made film.
yes.
So did no one? I guess still had. I thought it would reach the heights that it did and take
Oh,
off
no,
like that.
not at all. And the funny thing is, I've been doing an off Broadway show with Kevin Bacon after I did Friday the 13th. So we wrapped in late fall and then early that winter, I believe. I think it was that winter. Maybe it was late, like around Christmas. I booked an off-Broadway show, and it was with Kevin Bacon. I had just finished Friday the 13th too. He had already done part
Yeah,
one.
it's
We
alumni.
never spoke about it. Never
Really?
spoke about it.
That's
Years
interesting.
later, I would see him when I was doing a show on TV, and I ran into him at Columbus Circle, and I said, "Do you realize that we were?" Because by that time, I don't know how many parts were out, like 6 or 7. I said, "Do you realize that we were in the 2 original versions of this franchise?" He goes, "Yeah, isn't that crazy?" I said, "Yeah." But obviously, he went on and became Kevin Bacon. But I have 1 degree of separation from Kevin Bacon, so
That's great. I mean, my
that was a
cousin,
game.
my mom's cousin's Alan Alda from MASH.
Oh, okay, there, yeah, Alan
Yeah,
Alda. He has a funny
yeah,
voice, yeah.
yeah. He's great. He's a real humble guy. Jason, you want to
Yeah.
just go like back and forth questions? Because I don't want you to just sit
Oh,
there.
no, you're good. So, hi. To answer your question from earlier, I'm in Arizona, so in Phoenix, Arizona.
Oh.
So I know all about the heat.
You're burning up.
I'm burning up. So now I'm mostly here because now I am a big fan of Friday 2, as most horror fans are. I also recently rewatched Girls' Night Out.
Oh,
So
God.
I want to
cool to see
rewatch
you there
that.
as well. But
I met my
I
husband on
grew
that
up.
movie.
What's up?
I met my husband on Girls' Night Out. He played Bostwick, Ralph Bostwick, the geeky guy with the glasses and
Yeah.
Oh,
beanie.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my husband. 40 years.
You guys still together, huh?
Yep, 40. Well,
Oh,
if
wonderful.
you count the movie, then it's 42 years. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I saw that movie back in the day, and I got to rewatch it.
Yeah,
pretty
I just
funny.
watched it in the last couple months. So anyway, I grew up watching film, and one of my very favorites growing up was obviously a movie called Neighbors.
Ah,
And I watched that movie religiously as a child, and it's like a staple in my family.
yeah.
When I heard you were coming on for this, I was like, well, I'm a Friday 2 fan for sure, but I'm much more interested in talking to her about Neighbors. So
Thank you.
that
I
was
appreciate
that was
that.
released the same year. So now, which one did you film first?
Friday was first, and then
Okay.
Neighbors. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And a bunch of commercials in between.
now, couple questions about that. Number one, do you almost ever get talked to about Neighbors?
Recently, I've been talked to about Neighbors a lot. I've had signed posters. I have pictures on my table at conventions about it, but it's just, I would say, in the past 2 years, people have been coming out of the woodwork with Neighbors.
I think the reason that probably is because that forever it was only available on VHS. And so it's kind of an obscure film, even though it has John Belushi and Dan Aykroyd. For some reason, it just never found itself to be in like the mainstream talk. But most recently, Mill Creek released this Blu-ray copy of it,
look at that.
which I think it makes it look like a VHS. I have the original VHS here on my wall.
Yeah, I have it too.
But I think this is probably why you're hearing about it, because it finally got like a proper release and made people aware of it. But I genuinely think it's one of the great, brilliant comedies of all time. And I adore it. And I think that you're wonderful in it. And I'm curious on what it was like working with Belushi, because this was the last movie he ever made before he died.
Yeah, because he had already filmed Continental Divide, even though Continental Divide came out after Neighbors.
Yeah.
But he had already filmed that, and I thought he was very charming in that. It was, I always refer to it as the most fun I've ever had in my life, because it truly was just every day and every night was an adventure too, because after we would film, because most of our scenes were during the day, a couple of night shoots, but not a lot. At least not with me. With them, there were more, And we used to film during the day, and then I'd go to the Cherry Lane Theater to do album. And then because Belushi lived across the street, around the corner, I should say, on Barrow Street from the theater down in the village, they used to come and pick me up at the stage door, and we'd go out and go to concerts and just go to like Christopher Reeve's birthday party and drive around with Carrie Fisher. And it was just like, it was just so cool. And I wasn't affected by it. And I think that's why I know that's why I got the part, because they had been looking for someone. And I was
Yeah.
in Chicago doing the same show that I had been understudying for in New York. They flew me out to Chicago for a couple of weeks to take over for Jennifer Grey, who smacked her head on her birthday and got a concussion. So I was gone during the whole casting process of Neighbors. And when I came back, my manager, same manager, called me up and said, "You've got to get over to John Albertson's apartment is only a few blocks from you. They can't find somebody to play John Belushi's daughter." And I was like, all right. I wasn't a big fan of Saturday Night Live. I loved Animal House, but I wasn't.
Animal House.
I'm more of an athlete starstruck person than a movie person. And I went over and I, chatted it up with them. I didn't really read. I went back to my apartment. The phone rang. Yeah, go back. I went, okay. So I went back, and Belushi's like, "Hi, what were you doing in Chicago, by the way?" And I told him what I was doing, and I read with him a little bit. And he's like, yeah, I could see you being my daughter. I could see you being my daughter. He was supposed to play my part, and I was supposed to play his part, and we switched. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. And,
Yes.
I went home and I got the phone call that I had booked it, and we went to the Village to look for clothes. Belushi picked out every single outfit I wore. He helped
That's
Jack
so cool.
Engel, who was the hair and makeup guy. He helped him style me in the way that he wanted the punk girl. I mean, it was like a montage, those, where the girl tries on all these different clothes, except it was really happening. And that was cool. But on set, it was different. I was so naive. Oh my God, 12 years at Catholic school. I was so naive. They used to come to the trailer with these bags, and I was like, oh, it's so cute. They bring a bag lunch. And they looked at me and they were like, oh, where have you been? And I was like, what? It's cute. You bring your own lunch. And they opened it up and they pulled it out, and it was these huge buds of weed.
That's funny. That's
Yeah, and they're like, yeah, we.
it's like a living montage, like you said. Like it's like a living montage that you were in.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I could tell you a funny story if you want.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Jason's like, yeah, okay. So
You got her attention.
Okay, so we were filming the dinner scene, and it's Kathy Moriarty with that smirk on her face, Catherine Walker, who played my mom, Belushi, and Aykroyd, and boys are there. The three of us are on the other side of the table, and the camera's at the head of the table. And John Albertson, the director, had won the Academy Award for Best Director for Rocky, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So here we are at the dinner table, and he's trying to tell John how to be funny, right?
Oh.
And it just kept, and it was hotter than hell because we went way into the summer, and it was so hot, and we were filming on Staten Island. Can't have air conditioning on because of the noise, of these, the room air conditioners. So it's, it's hot and everybody's frustrated. And John Albertson is just like, John, it's just not funny. It's just not funny. You've got to be funnier. I don't know what to tell you. John Belushi just sat there, and finally he said, looked right at Albertson, and he said, what? Can I curse?
Of course, absolutely.
Okay.
This channel is a free for all.
Oh, okay, good. He goes, why don't we just take your goddamn Academy Award and put it on top of the fucking camera so we know who the fuck you are? He stood up, he banged his arms on the table, stood up, took the napkin from around his neck, throws it down on the table, walks away, and Catherine Moriarty looks like the cat that caught the canary. Catherine Walker started snorting and laughing. And then Danny Aykroyd just looked at us and said, I guess it's a wrap for the day.
That's amazing. That just one for them to tell anyone to tell Belushi how to be funny.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And what a great reaction he gave.
It
was great.
It had to be interesting because I would assume that, you go and do these movies back to back. One is this kind of like, throwaway slasher sequel that you think is never going to be seen by anybody. And then you're on set with an Academy Award winning director, two of the biggest stars, in the comedic world of the time. You're thinking, which one of these is going to be the thing I'm remembered for? Which one of these ones going to hit bigger? And it must be crazy to think that Fridays lived on and Neighbors became an obscure film.
So bizarre. I would never in a million years have thought that's where the chips would fall. And it was funny because I was on a soap opera for 12 years, And there is a clause in our contract that says you will not embarrass the network in any way. So, you do all these TV Guide and magazine star interviews and all that stuff like that. Never, ever, 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 ever was Friday the 13th mentioned or Girls Night Out. It was either Neighbors or Bust. And that was it. And when I was at a convention, I think it was last year in Gettysburg, and a couple of guys who were huge Loving fans, they came in and they said, we loved you in Loving and had no idea that you were Vickie from Part 2, our favorite Friday the 13th movie. And I was like, whoa. And it was just so bizarre how, that fan base, is also a horror fan base. And I'm finding that out just in the past couple of years since I've been getting out more.
And that's great.
So the soap opera was Ryan's Hope. Is that what?
I only did a few days on Ryan's Hope. It was Loving. I was
Loving?
Yeah, Loving. It was on after Ryan's Hope, before All My Children on one of the big networks.
Oh, I see. You were in 505 episodes. Oh my goodness.
I think I was in more than that because I was there for 12 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Somebody else has my IMDb, I can't even say it, page.
Yeah.
I have no control over it. I've called them and I'm like, why can't I get control of this? They said, well, you didn't start this page. Someone else started it. And I'm like, but it's me.
It's weird because me.
It's pretty much identity theft at that point. Like,
yeah, pretty much. So I'm in the process again of trying to get it back. Again.
Okay, well, let's hope that you can get it down. You get your actual self page up there.
Yeah, with pictures that I like.
You also did a craft show, like in the late 80s or something like that, right? If I'm recalling correctly.
That was so wrong. I am the least crafty person in the world.
Yeah.
So
let's do a craft show.
I booked it because I was a really good bullshit artist on camera, and I could really wing it. And they really believed that I knew what I was doing. And then when I got on set the first week, they're like, we thought you knew how to craft. And I went, no, I don't know how to craft. I said, I could put together models and boxes and glue things together.
That's great.
I said, but I have no idea. And they were like, they had to change the whole trajectory of the show and have guests come. They wanted me to be the next Martha Stewart. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
That's great, though, that you should say. You can always just say, you could have said, well, you didn't ask me directly if I know how to craft.
Right.
So technically, I didn't lie to you there.
Right. I just did really well on camera, making believe I knew what I was doing.
That's great.
Another quick shout out to my childhood. I was also an owner of a pound puppy. And I see that you had involvement in the Pound Puppy show. That was pretty cool. When I looked in here and saw Pound Puppy, I was like, oh my God, I had a Pound Puppy when I was a kid.
I didn't get a Pound Puppy. I'm mad now.
I had a few Pound Puppies.
From the dog pound. Does that count?
We'll count it. It counts here.
Thank you.
Jason, you got to go again. Another question?
Oh, so... Speaking of Neighbors and Friday the 13th, it's a little crossover here. So in the horror community, I'm sure this has been brought up to you by somebody at some point, but I have to ask myself. Now, when you are having this romantic thing going on with Mark, you go to change into some underwear. And these underwear have become infamous in the horror community.
I had the same question
because they are. It's funny. You don't actually obviously have. Do you have? Okay, let's say. Do you?
That's great.
That's CJ Graham and me.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah, because you were in actually pretty cute panties, and then you switched into these brown horrendous panties, and we're always like, why I would flip them around. Why weren't you wearing the brown ones first and then switch to the cute ones?
I asked, I said to Steve Miner, I said, these are the ugliest things I've ever seen in my entire life. I said, are you kidding me? And he's like, well, Lauren, satin is in. I said, but brown?
Brown, right.
And then he's just like, Lauren, just put them on. Just put them on. Yeah. So I'm looking for the other picture. You guys would get a kick out of it, but I can't find it. But it's in there. So I do a brown undie photo op now, just because. I mean, somebody actually made a bar of soap with the
Really?
brown undies in. Yeah, yeah,
That's
told you
wild.
they become infamous.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
why I had
even
it.
named it the brown undies.
That's
You can't
And
really
connect.
see it.
Oh my
No, you
goodness.
can't really see it. You can see it.
Oh,
See?
I see it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. Wow,
That's
And
funny.
she named
funny
it the
fella.
brown undies. That's the name of the soap.
That's great.
And connecting it to neighbors, like I was saying, because you also have infamous panties in that, edible panties that Dan Aykroyd eats.
I gotta see this movie. I still haven't seen that movie.
I got to tell you, like I said, I will say no more, but it was the best time of my life. And we did enjoy the panties at one point.
They're like made of like freaking fruit roll-ups.
That's what they are. Yeah, they're basically
Are
fruit
they?
roll-ups, and they're very
Yeah.
sticky.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Those must have been hard to get on.
How like this
They
was,
were easy to get off, though.
Yeah, I bet. They were eaten off.
Yeah. My question, not for the record, wasn't just mine. It was also he had it too, and a few people asked me this. Do you still have those infamous pair of panties? Or did anyone
here's
come
another
up to you
photo
and
op.
give you
You
one?
tell me.
Yes, they're
Here's
the
another
identical
photo op.
ones though.
Those are the ones from the movie?
That's what I mean. Yeah,
No, they're
identical.
the same ones, but it's not the exact same pair. But that's me with the Sons of Anarchy with them on.
Yeah.
Oh, fun show. That's great.
Yeah, it's our prom picture. No, I'll tell you,
That's
I
great.
have signed a few pairs. Sheepishly, I have been asked at conventions to sign a few. I think they're really hard to sign, but I think I've signed only maybe 4 or 5 of them. So it's a hot commodity. If somebody brings one, it's a hot commodity.
All right, so guys who watch this later, don't forget, find those exact brown panties, bring them to a convention when Lauren's there, and that way you'll be able
You
to
can find
get them
them on
signed.
eBay. Yeah, you can find them on eBay. Just make sure you get size medium, because once I put them on as a dare under my mini skirt.
Yeah, that didn't work out.
It worked out. I think it was in Atlanta, and somebody dared me, and I was feeling very silly that day. And I don't do drugs or anything like that. Anyway, once in a while I have an edible, but that's about it.
We've all been there, right?
That's because I broke my shoulder, so it's medicinal
Yes.
gummies because I broke my shoulder a month ago. Anyway,
yeah, you look great and not in any pain now, so that's good.
I know.
Glad you healed up fast and well.
Thanks. 2 hours, 3 days a week of physical therapy. 2 hours a day, 3 days a week.
That's a lot.
Yeah, well, they want me back in fighting form. I gotta, go play for the Bengals or the Bills or something. No. Anyway, you can get them on eBay just to cover all the bases here. You can get them on eBay, apparently. Yeah.
So pretty
See,
much
if you order Warren
eBay, you can get anything
there.
on eBay. So you can also get those infamous panties.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Steve Miner?
He was very by the book. He was very. I think serious. I saw him because again, I was younger, and because I went to Catholic school for so long and had to deal with so many nuns. Anybody who was an authority figure for me scared me a little bit and brought me to tears very easily. So
I went to Catholic high school, so I get it a little bit. I went to high school.
Yeah, you get it. Yeah. But he was good. He was very nice. But because you're working with a limited budget, the company that was putting the movie on, I'm not supposed to talk about any production companies or anything. They
so terrible what's going on with that.
Oh, I know, it's ridiculous. I mean, they're opening things up so we're able to do things here and there, but you can't do anything for any of the major studios. So independent stuff and things like that we can do. Okay. Obviously you guys are not sponsored by
Losers
so
like
and so
us.
pictures.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, no, that's another thing. It's like, no, I'm not being paid $1 million by such and such production company to do a podcast. It's my own. I edit it. I do all the music. I do everything myself. So, but it's cool actually.
I have a feeling that if a podcast offered you $1 million, you would do it no matter what.
I'd do anything.
Right? That was my answer too.
Listen, I mean, I could go back to that movie, Indecent Proposal, with Demi Moore and Robert
Yeah.
Redford. It's like,
Yeah. Redford.
I'd be like, I'd be all over that. I'm sorry, I don't care. I don't care.
You'd have your brown panties on in no time.
That's it. She'd be right there, ready.
On and off, right like that.
Edible brown panties.
The brown ones come off, and then the edible ones are there. That's
right. The cherries go on.
It's
No,
a trick.
Steve Miner, because we had a budget, we had X amount of weeks to do it. It had to get done. There were a lot of times you hear about jokes that directors or gaffers, or the grips, makeup artists, you play jokes behind the scenes on people. There was really none of that going on. It was more the actors playing jokes on each other, but not on camera. It would be like walking back up the hill to our cabins, or in our cabins, and getting scared by them making stupid noises and scratching at the mosquito screens. So Steve Miner was nice, very professional, very efficient, and just was really the captain of the ship, really.
Yeah. Kind of sounds like a little better than Joseph Zito for part 4. He was terrible.
Oh, I don't know a whole lot about that.
Yeah, I heard he was he was a hard director on a lot of people on that.
So he's just a lot. I know Tommy from part 6, McLaughlin, and he was great, apparently. Everybody I've spoken to. And I also traveled with him to Germany, so I know he's great. He's a great guy.
Yeah, a friend of mine actually had him on a few months ago. Great interview, great guy,
Yeah. Directors are fun.
Yeah, they are. And it's just great just hearing. I had Jack Shoulder on a few months ago. We did Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and Wishmaster 2, all these great movies that I grew up with. And just to hear like the wisdom and everything. He's a veteran director. He's been retired now for like a decade or more. It's so great just to hear your guys' experiences and the memories that you guys made while making these movies that we grew up with and absolutely adore.
Thanks. Yeah.
When was the first time you saw the full finished film?
I think when it came on VHS. We didn't go. I went to the movie theater to see it. I was busy. I was mortified to see my face that big on screen. It freaked me out. I didn't go with anybody. I went by myself to see it, and I was just like, that face is too big on camera. It was weird. I didn't like myself in it, of course, which is typical.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. As a musician, I play guitar mostly 24 years. I don't like my singing, so I critique that all the time. So.
You identify. Yeah, I identify with that. But it was. I mean, it was cool, and I was like, wow, they did because, I wasn't there for all of Amy Steele's, end of movie type of stuff, and I'm like, oh, that was really cool. It's really cool. It's really cool. But I saw Tom McBride after that. He came and he screen tested opposite me to replace one of the actors on the soap opera. And I was like, please, we work so well together. Please hire him. And they're like, no, that's not the type. We want a blonde guy. And I was like,
dye your hair.
I know, really. But no, I mean, I was just after it came out, and I was just like, I just was busy. I did the 2 movies. And I got the soap opera almost right on the heels of that, like within a year of Girls' Night Out. I was on the soap opera. I was getting married, and then in 1986, and I just started having, kids. I had 3 kids. So it was a busy time, I was too busy to think about it, really.
Yeah, and that's got to be wild, just like you said, starting with this movie that you thought no one would see, and then going to Neighbors, and then right to a soap opera that you were on for 12 seasons for. I mean, it's like a nonstop roller coaster ride. Yeah,
a little, Girls' Night Out in between. But the only thing I remember about Girls' Night, I'm always so surprised to watch it, because I was like, oh, I forgot about that scene. And I realized the reason why I don't remember making half of that movie is because I fell in love, during the making of that. So for me, it was like, go and do your job, go flirt. Do your job, go flirt. It was like, as soon as they yelled cut, I was like, go to flirt.
That passed the time too. That's amazing that you met your husband, during doing something you love, that you both love doing, acting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I have a question from a friend of mine, Eric from Hey Internet. Eric here, and people who watch this later, please subscribe to him. Also, please subscribe to Well, Jason, you're doing all right. I'm kidding. Just subscribe to Sinister Cinema Reviews if you're not for some reason. And he has this question. Was it true that you guys had to, all the cast and crew had to sleep on the set, like during all the filming? Just live and sleep there.
No, this is one thing that Felissa Rose and Catherine Kami and I talk about all the time. For sleepaway camp, they got put up in a hotel. Okay, not far from their camp. They got put up in a hotel. We slept at there were two camps, literally right next to each other. Like one was uphill, one was at the lake, where we filmed, and we stayed at the one that was just right up the hill. And we lived in those cabins with all those friggin' bugs and creepy ass noises. I was from the Bronx, dudes. I kid you not.
My mom's from the Bronx.
Then your mom knows. You don't know what dark is. There's no such thing as dark when you grow up in the New York City area. You guys know this, right? Yeah. It's not like being in Arizona where you can see the sky.
Yeah, no. I have my family has a house upstate, a log cabin in the middle of the woods. That's nice. Okay. Then you're in the middle of nowhere. You can see all that. But yeah, on Long Island, you're not seeing them much.
Yeah, so here we are. There I am bringing cute little dresses. I'm like, ugh. But it was so dark at night, I couldn't sleep. I was so grateful when we would film at night, because we only did a few scenes during the day, because Steve Miner filmed in order of script, in script order. All right. So all the day stuff that's in the beginning of the movie was all shot first. Then, he moved into the nighttime stuff. And I was so happy because I was like, thank God, because I can't sleep in this darkness.
You guys turned into vampires.
Right.
Day and work at night.
We totally did.
Yeah, that has been a while. It reminds me of a lot of independent movies did that, but like Evil Dead, famously, like they were living there at that cabin with no electricity or running water and stuff. Like they went through hell making that movie.
The communal bathrooms. Oh.
Yeah, right. The things you do for some movie you had no clue would be seen, and then it blows up into this major franchise. Now, were you into horror movies before you auditioned and went for Friday?
I wasn't like, I've got to see this, I've got to see Evil Dead, I got to see, but I grew up in the age of Creature Feature and Schiller Theater. And so every Friday and Saturday night, you'd have Creature Feature one night, Schiller Theater another night on one of the local stations, one of the local New York City stations. And so they would run like all the classics like Dracula, Godzilla's, of course, Frankenstein's, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the old one. Yeah. It was that's what I watched. I watched haunted house stuff like Abbott and Costello, Scooby-Doo and the Haunted House,
Abbott and Costello, like Meet Frankenstein, Abbott and Costello.
Yeah, those were the ones that I watched. And then, you get into high school and they kind of went by the wayside, but I started to read horror, like Pet Sematary, Amityville Horror, Carrie, of course, The Shining. I still have the old Shining book, like the old one right here. So I was reading horror because I went to a Brainiac school, so I was very busy, getting my crap together to get the grades I had to keep, to stay in the school. But I read a lot of horror type of stuff. I was into that creepy type of stuff. Loved Grimm's fairy tales. I loved the good ones where they cut off your heels or they cut your ear off or they really poison you and you don't wake up. That stuff I was into. And then ones. As a young, but you know what? As I grew older, I liked things like, The Shining is one of my go-to for horror. Favorite.
I know
Silence of the Lambs.
That's one of your
horror thriller. We don't really know.
Jason, one of your favorite movies is
The Shining. Which one?
What?
The Shining is one of your favorites.
Oh, yeah. Shining? The Shining.
It's definitely one of the ones I've watched a lot.
Yeah, sure.
We subjected our kids to it when they were little, and we used to watch it on New Year's Eve.
There you go. Well, I started. It's weird that me and him both first saw Halloween at 6 years old, right? Yeah, you too.
Wow.
First horror movie, and it changed my life completely. like just everything about that movie. But right after that was the Friday films. So like from 7 years old or so, I've been watching like the original 8, especially that were always on TV. So I mean, it's
So
very
you were,
surreal having Vickie from Friday
oh,
too.
right.
Yeah.
But so when you were a kid and you would go trick or treating, did you
Okay.
dress up as any of these killers?
Oh yeah, I used to dress up as Michael
Oh,
Myers
good.
all the time, and Jason. Not even on not just on Halloween. You just had the masks and you'd put them on and stuff. Like yeah, like horror has been my life since Halloween basically. Jason, what do you say?
That's like, yeah. Hmm?
Jason, you
No.
want to chime in? No.
No, I was just, yeah, I mean, I definitely dressed up. I actually had great concerns as a child from neighbors and school and my parents because I would just like walk around with the Michael Myers mask. Weirdly, when I was a kid, we grew up in LA and we knew this guy named Bucky Moore, and he was the property master on Halloween 4. And he had this big crush on my mother, and he used to come over to pick up his kid, Bryce, and he actually like found out I was a big Halloween fan because I was sitting there, I was watching the movie, and he was like, he's like, oh, well, you know, I'm working on the new Halloween. He was the property master for 4. And I was like, what? You know, I was like 6 years old at the time, and I was freaking out. And he was like, well, you know, I can bring over the mask if you want to see it. So they made a bunch for the movie.
Yeah.
And so he brought one over and he showed it to me. And of course, I just thought it was the greatest thing that ever existed. And of course, he was trying to get in good with my mom, and he had like 5 of them. And he's like, why don't you just keep this?
That's right.
And so he gave it to me when I was like this little kid. And so I used to just walk around the house and rock around in the bushes, like outside at night, wearing this Michael Myers mask, and I would just sit out there for like an hour in the bushes at night.
So I never went in the bushes wearing mine. I'll just say that.
Oh yeah, I did. And there was definitely concerns, but I don't know. I was such a fanboy at the time, and I had a real Myers mask. I felt like I was the legit real deal, you know?
That's so funny.
That's great. You know, I remember you saying that a long while ago in a video years ago, but didn't it, you don't have it anymore, right? It like melted away,
it disintegrated, like, something like that. They don't say.
I could imagine.
They don't say. You know, unfortunately, those things aren't built to last. They're made out of material that disintegrates. So
I have a Jack Nicholson mask too, but it's I think I hid it from my dogs because they were looking to chew it up.
I love Nicholson.
I got a decent amount of pushback on that claim, being like you're lying, and I'm like, okay. I don't know why I'd lie about such a thing.
Yeah,
such a weird thing to lie about, but
people just love to bitch nowadays. So we were talking the other day. People just love that's their job, like just bitching and complaining.
I did have a mask enthusiast who works on like collecting iconic masks. I had him message me, and him being like, "Can you tell me a little bit about the mask?" And I told him like, yeah, there's like these kind of duct tape things that go under the thing, and they had the mesh in the inside, and the hair was more brillowy and this spray paint. So then he came into my comments for that video like later and was like, hey, I just want to let everyone know, like, you know, I'm an expert on these. And I contacted him, and whatever, all the stuff he told me, he absolutely 100% had the mask. He wouldn't know that stuff unless he had one.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool that he like came to my defense for that. But yeah, that's my claim to fame in horrors. I was gifted a Halloween 4 mask when I was a kid.
That is cool. It's too bad it's disintegrated.
Right.
Yeah, well, I wore it like an idiot. I would have been, you know, you giving it to me now, I would have kept it good care. But at 6 years old, you don't think I'm going to play with it?
It's like playing a record too many times, like over and over again.
I ripped the neck out when I was putting it on. Oh God, I think back about that and I want to just jump off a cliff.
Yeah, I feel that. I know what you mean.
We're kids.
Yeah, exactly. What do we know as kids? Like
back to Friday too, when you were talking about how you don't like your performance or you don't like looking at yourself in the movie.
I don't like looking at myself.
a quick little shout out to the fact that my buddy Christian and I from Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast, we did do a top 10 hottest girls in the franchise video,
I remember.
and you made the cut. So
Are you
we
kidding
disagree.
me?
We disagree that you don't look good in that movie. We both agreed that
Oh
Vickie
my God.
is
Yes,
absolute
I
top
agree
10.
with that as well.
Samantha was my number 1 from 4. But I want to say Vickie made it pretty high. I don't remember what number you were, but I think you were top 5.
I was like, the dark
I have
horse.
to look
Yeah.
at the video and make sure. But
The nice girl made it.
And that's the one thing that I've always loved about your character in that. Just you're adorable in that. The way that you just like are gushing over Mark the whole time. Like you play that so well. Like
well, it was funny to make those choices because we talked about Steve Miner, directing. And I think because, he was really intense on getting everything done, he pretty much, left us, obviously not Amy Steele because she had really so much to do.
Yeah.
But the rest of us, we were kind of left to play the scenes, the way we saw fit and just hit our marks and get the angles and of course scream on cue. And when I was watching Marta Kober, because she's just naturally exudes, everything. And I thought, this is how I'm going to do it. So I played Vickie as somebody who doesn't think of herself as particularly sexed up, is not particularly sexed up, probably went to Catholic school too and was repressed, but she's trying to act like that other girl who's got that other hot guy's attention. So I tried to play it as if she's trying really hard to, have sexy time, but ultimately it's not quite working for her.
Yeah, I think you played it excellently because I mean, you saw that short that I sent you Friday too. That Sandra was always my favorite in that movie, but then I found out years later that she was underage and lied and stuff. So now every time I watch that movie, I feel weird because childhood memories come back. You're my second favorite though in that movie.
Thanks. And we're not that far apart in age.
Yeah.
It's just that she missed that birthday. It wasn't quite that birthday for her yet, whereas I had made that milestone.
Yeah.
I think.
Interesting. What did they say to her when they found out? They said because they had to cut a whole scene, I think, right?
Yeah.
She did a nude scene.
Yeah, the whole nude scene.
They cut a lot out of that love scene. Yeah.
Which is straight out of Mario Bava's Twitch of the Death Nerve. I say that all the time.
Yeah, a lot of people say that.
I wonder if they would have gotten, legally in trouble had they released that with her nudity in it. I'm assuming they would have, right? Like that would have been a bad.
Yeah.
I mean, if they didn't know.
Yeah. They didn't know, but all they have to do is check your page.
Yeah, exactly. So it would fall on them for sure.
Yeah, I mean, people it was a low budget slasher that nobody thought anything of. It was just kind of like going to go into that, is this a snuff film or isn't it radar? But they did cut a lot out because the ratings board were like, this is going to be an X rating. Cut it out.
Boo.
At least Friday too, though, had a lot of good kills and stuff to him. The first 4 or 5,
it got hacked to death, though.
Oh, I know. I've seen the uncut ones. And some of them I think are better cut, like Alice's death in the very beginning with the ice pick thread.
Oh yeah, right.
Her face in the uncut one, she makes a terrible dying face. It just does not look good at all. So I'm glad that they cut some of them, but some of the other kills were good, and that leads to a question. Terry's kill, if you remember this, did they do any effect or death scene for her, and then it didn't work out because they just cut away once she freaked out and goes?
They just cut away.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've always wondered.
Kirsten talked about it she talked about it on the podcast. What happened? What Steve Miner did is she didn't know that the camera was behind her. So when he said, Kirsten, look this way, she turned around, the camera's right in her face, and she just screamed.
Oh, okay. So she
didn't
reacted to the
expect
camera.
Natural reaction.
Yeah. So she was reacting to she was so startled by it being so in her face and right behind her, and it was dark out, of course.
Yeah.
So it was even creepier, and she just started screaming. Yeah.
If we had her on right now, I would love to know why she threw a towel out into the woods. That scene has always made me laugh. I'm like, we just throw towels in the woods, I guess. I don't know. It's like one of those gags where she like throws it at the camera, but it's out into the woods.
Yeah, so. There's cabins everywhere, so it's not like she couldn't just like walk into one and put it down or anything.
I always thought she was throwing it towards Russell Todd's character.
No, she's by herself. This is when she's heading back to the house after he's been strung up and she's going to get him help. She just takes her towel and throws it into the woods for some random reason.
Okay. See, I always read it to believe that she was throwing it towards him as another, you jerk.
Yeah. Oh no, she's far away from him at that point.
She goes to get the knife to cut him down. She goes to get.
Yeah, you can tell I haven't really like.
No, that's all right.
Picked it apart
we're the geeks who obsess over this crap. Exactly. You're just the one who's in it.
I have a question from my friend Goraphobe over on his channel. Did anyone like get into method acting or use method acting in the cast? Like stay in that role the entire time of filming? Like besides Jason.
Nah.
No, I didn't think so. So
no,
that's an easy question.
I hope not.
Imagine acting like some of those characters, like 24/7 for the whole film.
No, not 24/7. No, but I mean, I would imagine that Amy Steele going through all those really intense scenes towards the end, in order to keep that level of fear mixed with fight or flight, she had to have stayed at some level of method to remain so focused, because you can't just walk away from being chased or grabbed by the hair or having something come at you and then walk away and go okay, let's keep going.
I'd be like, oh, that was totally fine, like I'm good now. Absolutely, to keep it going.
Yeah.
And her character.
Did you make any like friends on set that you kept for years and years after?
I'm still friendly with Bill Randolph, actually, and I'm actually so friendly with Ron Milkey from Driving Him Everywhere that I could have sworn he was in part 2 with us. And when I was rewatching it was on TV recently, and I went, wait a minute, I thought Ron was in our movie, because we're all in the New York City area at that time, and we all knew each other. But no, I stayed chums with Bill. Kirsten and I go back and forth sometimes. And Russell Todd, I've remained friendly with. We're big dog people, so of course dog people stick together. Yeah, so it's really just us. Yeah, Bill and Kirsten and Russell and I.
What about Stuart Charno? Because I'm a big fan of Just One of the Guys. I'm a massive fan of that film, and anytime I see him, I'm always going to think about that. But of course, he was in Friday 2 as well. Do you remember working with him?
Yeah, he was great. He was a lot of fun. And now talk about method acting. He was always funny. I like his character. He was always having a good time, and he was the smartest character because he stayed at the bar and got drunk, and so he didn't get killed. Exactly. But he's good. I spoke to him last about 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Pretty recent.
Yeah.
I've never really understood his Beethoven joke. What is it? It's like he shit on the seat or whatever. Is that what it is? His last move? What is it? What's that joke that he tells in the movie? What was
Beethoven's last movement? Yeah, something like that. I don't remember. Yeah.
I never understood.
You can tell I don't watch it a whole lot.
Yeah, I watched it, but I just never understand the joke.
Well, you know what? If I watch it and I hear the joke in its entirety, maybe I'll be able to shed some light on that subject.
Yeah, I think it's like after this, I'll look it up and I'll message you what the joke is.
Yeah, right.
I haven't put much thought into it, but just off the top of my head.
A friend of mine, Dave from the UK, wanted to ask, and I ask this about a lot of movies all the time. So obviously, the first movie, Jason is in a dream sequence and he drowned as a kid. Did anybody on set, like the cast, the crew, anyone question that this is 5 years later and now that drowned kid is now a big ass guy going around killing everybody? Like, did anyone mention that? No one.
Steve Miner should have known, but because he worked on part 1. But nobody questioned it because, again, it was not a big franchise.
It's just make it and get it out, of course. I just was nitpicking things.
Right, but you know what it was? I think they explained it away by saying it wasn't 5 years later. It was more like 15 years later, but then that doesn't explain the Alice component in the very beginning.
Yeah.
So you either have to get rid of Alice in the beginning and start it from the people at camp, you know, when Alice has just moved on and stayed alive and gotten on with her life, and then start it, you know, 15 years later. And then you can have a guy who's probably, I don't know, well, maybe 10 years later, maybe he was 18 when he came through the, you know, with the sap on his head, you know, but I don't know. I think maybe the lake froze and he was preserved like Walt Disney and
There you go.
thawed out.
He was in Frozen before Frozen was a thing.
Yeah, right. But he
I don't
did
have
look
an
like
issue.
Encino Man.
I don't have an issue with this at all. I mean, he drowned.
I don't have an
when he was a
issue.
kid.
I just love pointing it out because nobody
But
can go to that.
I don't see the issue. I see that you have a kid.
We wouldn't have the series if they didn't do that.
No, but there's no issue, is what I'm saying. So he drowns as a kid at the camp many years before. Then his mom comes and kills the camp counselors years later. Then we jump 5 years later. The dream sequence that Alice had,
you're right, actually.
is just a dream sequence. That's not really Jason.
No, I know that.
Right?
That.
So there's no problem. He would be an adult by this point in 1985. True. So I don't understand that complaint from people. That doesn't make any sense. The real question that should be asked though is can Mark get it up? That's what I really want to know. Okay. That's what I want to know. He says that what does he say?
We're going there.
Goodbye?
Oh no, we're going there. Okay. All right, here we go. I don't know if I've ever told this story. Gotta make my
awesome. So guys, exclusive first-time story here from Lauren.
I think it is. Okay, so when I was growing up in the Bronx, it was a time when the Vietnam vets were coming, home. Troops were coming home from Vietnam. So we had a lot of guys in our neighborhood who had served in the Vietnam War, and one guy was like Mark. He was in a wheelchair, and he had limited use of his hands as well. They were stuck in this position. I don't know how old I was. I guess I must have been about 12 or 11. And he kind of grew up fast in the Bronx, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so I knew a little bit more. Back now, of course, 11-year-olds, I mean, they can Google anything. But back then, it was unusual for an 11-year-old to know as much as she knew about the way of the world when it comes to. So I said to him one day when we were sitting outside in the park, and he had a girlfriend, Miriam, and all stuff like that. I said to him, how do you have sex? This is going to be really gross, but I'm going to do it for you guys. He went like this. He went.
So
that's great.
So you're stating that, because in the movie he says something along the lines of like, oh, I get by, or
I manage, I get by,
I manage, or something like that. So he's just saying, I'll go down on you.
Exactly.
Okay, so he can't get it up. We always wondered.
Yeah, it was burning in our heads to get that answer.
Well, see, now
I'm always going to ask the sex questions, so leave it to me.
That's why I brought you.
I bring up the panties. I bring up the sex. I got this.
Jason,
so now you're going to ask what you were going to ask. There is so in the where is Paul?
Yeah,
and so there's like. Do you think that the muffin scene is a dream sequence, much like Alice's scene at the end of 1? And if so, did Paul die? But Paul absolutely isn't dead because he comes in and helps her after she knocks Jason. So I don't understand where Paul is.
And then in the next movie, in 3, at the beginning, they say 8 people were killed before that.
And how many people died in Friday 2?
No matter what you do, it doesn't add up, right? So I don't know if they just messed
Maybe
up.
They just haven't found all the bodies yet.
Wait.
Yeah.
Well, Crazy Ralph, the police officer, Mark and me, Russell, Todd, Kirsten Baker, and Marta Kober, and Bill Randolph. That's it.
So then
Okay.
Paul survived?
Paul survived in the original part 3. Okay. In the original part 3, Amy Steele's character was still alive. Ginny was still alive. Obviously, it was completely rewritten because they couldn't work out terms for her to come back for part 3. So they scrapped the part 3 script that they were going to use. Or they scrapped the beginning of it. So in the beginning of the original part 3, the way it was written is that I believe Amy's character, Jenny, was at college going to graduate school, something like that. And having a good time, she goes back to her dorm and opens up the refrigerator, and Paul's head is in the refrigerator. That was in the original part 3 script.
That would have been interesting to see for sure.
That would have been pretty lame.
I didn't say it was good. I said it would have been interesting to see, just to see how it works out. But yeah, that would be a complete rip-off the second.
Now, I'm assuming you didn't work with Adrienne King.
No, never saw her until I did a convention.
I figured.
Nope.
I figured. Now, she was dealing with a stalker at the time, and that's why she didn't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. I mean, she did it. She did part 2, the beginning of part 2.
But, like, she didn't want to do a starring thing.
But I don't really know a whole lot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just the horror geeks in us coming out again.
Of course.
So tell us maybe one or two of your favorite memories on there.
Oh, here you are. You're back. I lost you guys for a minute.
I don't know. We're here.
No, we're not. Yeah. So what would you consider maybe like the 2 best memories and experiences you had working on that film?
On part 2?
Yeah.
Well, I actually loved the kill scene. I enjoyed screaming. It was like, therapy or something. I really enjoyed the death scene.
It's like letting it all out.
So much fun screaming. Yeah. And the other one that I really liked was the campfire scene. I had never roasted a marshmallow in my life. Never been to camp in my life. Never had an open fire by a lake with all people the same age as me in my life. So those were my 2 favorites, the campfire and my kill scene, because it was just so much fun to just let it rip and start screaming.
Yeah. That's great.
That noise you hear in the background, by the way?
Yeah, gonna wonder.
There's a banging noise. That's our border collie thrashing one of those rope toys around.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the border collie. The one I tripped over and broke the shoulder. Yeah, that one.
Okay. You gotta tell you to keep that in your room, his room, so you can't trip over.
Yeah, well, that's where he is. He's in our bedroom right now, trying to get my husband to feed him.
Jason, anything? I want to be respectful.
No, you're good.
We're at 57 minutes, so
yeah. So another person that might have been on set here, maybe for something. Did you get to meet Betsy Palmer when she did her little flashback type, weird thing that she did? Dream thing.
I met Betsy Palmer years later at a very small convention in Pennsylvania, and she was uproariously funny. Just a lot of fun. Just a great woman. But I didn't. The only people that I met were the people who were in our scenes. If they were on a different set or in a completely different, but I never met him. Never met her, I should say. Yeah.
It's amazing though that after 13 movies we're at in the series.
Yeah, I think so.
That
12.
12, yes. With the remake, 12. You're right. That all of you guys who are in these different films, like at conventions, stuff that it's like a big family that you guys have here, like the Friday alumni.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I met Judy Aronson when we were in Weekend of Hell in Germany with Tommy McLaughlin and Bill Randolph, Alyssa, and Catherine Conley. She was there. Judy from, I think she's in part 4 or 5. Judy Aronson in the boat.
Yeah.
That's Sam.
That's
my number one.
That's his favorite one.
Yeah, she's great. So we met in Germany for the first time, and again, you have that camaraderie because you're in the same franchise, and we got along like bees and honey. And now, like, she just called the other day. I'm in New York. How far away are you? I'm like, I'm a physical therapist. I can't make it in. And we'll get on the phone and we'll talk for 2 hours at a clip. 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I wasn't in her movie. I've only just met her in 2021. And we can talk for hours on the phone.
What movie did you say?
She was in Friday the 13th part.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I thought you were okay. Sorry, I thought you were talking
Oh
about
no.
Something new.
Yeah, so it is. So it is weird. Like meeting Tracy Savage.
Yeah.
And other people from, the different chapters and whatnot. Tom Matthews, CJ Graham, all those guys were so much. It's just like, it's like you instantly know what the other one is thinking.
Yeah.
You're just instant friends. It's bizarre. It's weird because I've met people from other franchises, like Nightmare on Elm Street and so on and so forth. But when it's your franchise, you have so much to say. Oh, well, in yours this happened, and yours this happened. So it's different.
It's because it's so dear to you guys. I mean, like none of you, like we've said, that ever saw this going the way it did. And then I'm sure with each sequel that came out, they still didn't think it was going to keep going as far as it's gone now.
I know. I've tried to watch some of Jason Goes to Outer Space or whatever it is, the moon, and I was like,
it's fun. It's just not like
it's ridiculous.
It's absolutely over the top, completely.
And that's the point,
Yeah, and that's why it's fun and it works for me. Like, Jason Goes to Hell is the black sheep of this series for most people.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I got to catch that one. Okay. I like
just so I can keep my street cred. I'm very aware of which movie Judy Aronson's in. So I want everyone to. I don't want anyone to think I'm like, wait, which one's she in? No. Okay. Final Chapter is my favorite Friday film. So
it's my favorite slasher film. It's your favorite slasher film too, right?
It's my favorite like true slasher movie because Halloween's my favorite film, and I guess that is a slasher, but it's not a slasher.
Not really a slasher.
Friday the 13th Part 4 is.
Yeah.
And Friday 2 is my second favorite in the franchise. So
that's mine too.
Okay. Yay.
Yeah.
So you're right there. Number 2.
I adore it for sure.
It's hard for me even because the 2 is so close on 4 for me. And I love Sackhead Jason. I always have.
Yeah. I love Sackhead Jason too. It's creepy, that one eye.
Yeah. I mean, the hockey mask went on to be absolutely iconic, but I always thought that was creepier. Like him with the
I mean, I've got a hockey mask.
Awesome.
There it is.
Yeah,
there it is.
But like the one from Part 4.
That's from 4.
It's got like little ears.
Yeah. So a little friend of mine, Evan, he he goes to conventions also, and he put this together for me with the kitty cat ears because he knows I have cats, and gave it to me as a little gift at one of the conventions, and I thought it was so sweet.
That's great. Like I said, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Jason, do you have any more questions for her?
I mean, I can always come up with plenty of questions.
Me too. We don't stop talking. So.
Oh, you sounded so Long Island just then. We don't stop talking.
Yeah,
excellent.
I get that all the time, like on my videos, when people love when I just go real heavy New York accent, like with certain mannerisms and things I say. Like, it comes out strong. Like,
I used to have the accent really, like I'll call you tomorrow. But then when I got into this whole business, I auditioned for a role on one of the other soap operas, and they said, that New York accent is horrible. She's got to get rid of that New York accent. It was before I did Friday. And I was like, I don't have an accent. Like that.
That's basically how it is.
Yeah. So when I went to college, I very specifically took speech the entire year. And then I started getting mistaken for being from Ohio, or somewhere in the Midwest, which was cool. But then my son married a young lady from Long Island. And during COVID, everybody came back home from the city or, Brooklyn, where everybody was living, Queens. They all came back to their childhood home to stay. So here's Sam from Long Island. And she talks like this. And by the end of when everybody was living here, I guess it was 6 months or so, I was talking like that again. And my husband noticed, and my husband said, do you realize you're talking like you used to when you were way younger? I meant,
hard to fully break out of it.
what?
It's so hard to break out of it fully.
Yeah,
But
it is.
So
It is.
my last question, I guess, will then be: Were you approached for the 13 fanboy film?
No,
No, not at
No.
all.
no.
That's
That's
No.
surprising.
Because you know what? I'm not out west. I'm on the East Coast.
yeah.
So there's a lot of opportunity on the West Coast, even in the Washington State, Oregon area. Everybody
Yeah.
lives out there.
Yeah.
Everybody lives out there. And I don't. I mean, I just interviewed a director and I said, I'd love to work with you, blah, blah, blah in the future. He's now back on the East Coast, but his last projects were on the West Coast. And it's just like, a couple of my friends who are in different franchises, they're like, Lauren, why don't you just come to LA for a little while, and, you could work, well, now nobody's working because of the strike, but no, I don't. And I interviewed Deborah Voorhees for the podcast too.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of actors who have been killed in movies have a
little club.
mixed feelings about the idea of getting killed the way you got killed in a movie.
Yeah.
So
How do you feel about your kill scene in Friday 2?
I don't think Vickie died, tell you the truth. I think she faked it.
That would be a great
we didn't see
a
it.
future movie to have maybe
Well,
Vickie come back.
I'll tell you what happened is
Panties.
I have an offer for one where it's Vickie is my age, she's older and she became like a detective type, person. Then I did another one I did another one in Canada where I'm obviously I'm an older woman who, not older, but you know what I mean, mature woman who lives up in the woods, up in the backwoods and drives a huge pickup truck. And I pick up the final girl and I notice that she's bleeding and I've got a 3.5-page monologue talking about death and gore and animals that eat things and how people are like animals. And it's like, she doesn't have the name. She's just called the woman. And of course the director was like, it could be Vickie. People might watch this and go, that's Vickie.
That's interesting because I could see her character becoming like a detective. Actually, I could see that evolution.
Well, because I wasn't part of that group of dead people. Don't forget, when they go back in and they see like Kirsten Baker like this and other people, Vickie's not there.
Why aren't you in that scene? Do you think?
Because I don't think Vickie died.
But did they not ask you to be in it?
I was around.
Well, in the shack, right? In the shack.
Yeah, in the shack.
It was just Terry's character and the cop, right? In the ending.
Yeah, I think that's all you saw. Yeah.
Yeah, we never see.
But then you see the bodies of you just see Jason. You see the bloody mattress that Sandra and
Right.
Yeah, we're in.
Bill Randolph is hanging out behind me. Yeah, he's literally hanging out behind me.
How was working? Did you probably didn't because you said you weren't on set with him, but did you ever see Walter Gurney?
No. Actually, yeah. He hung out. He was there. His kill scene happened on one of the days that spilled into the evening. So he was there just hanging out. And what a great guy. I have a great picture with him and Bill Randolph and Marta Cobra because I have like a little photo album of, some behind the scenes stuff, but mostly goofy stuff with the crew. And I have a picture of the three of them. I think it's on my Instagram. If you go way scroll, it's there. It's on my Lauren Marie Taylor one. Yeah.
I thought that was great that they brought him back for the voiceover for 7. Like he does the voiceover.
Oh, really?
7. Yeah. Which I didn't know for years. Like as a child and my teen, I didn't know that until I looked into it and saw trivia about it and realized that's Ralph. That's Walter Gurney doing the voiceover in that.
Oh,
I think that the other piece of trivia that we need to point out here when it comes to Crazy Ralph is his death makes literally no sense.
Oh yeah, of course.
How's that?
Where's Jason?
No, because he's standing in front of a tree. And then the rope comes over his neck and pulls back.
You're right.
Like, there's a tree. How'd you throw it over the tree?
Yeah, it makes no sense. And
You're right.
So
maybe
wherever
they're
they
filming?
filmed on, obviously the tree was cut off right above his head. But yeah, they just throw it over his neck, and I'm like, there's like a massive tree that he had to throw it over, right?
Nobody noticed this. In part 5, they do something very similar, but they throw it around, and he
The belt.
grabs it here and then twists it, right? So that makes sense. But
That
over
makes sense.
no sense.
See, probably
Yeah.
because of part 2, they had to switch it up.
They had to be like, that don't work. When are you going to be at a convention next?
That was the question too. Yes.
Well, convention season around here is winding down. I'm going to a haunted house in West Virginia the weekend of Friday the 13th, and I'm going to go with Ron Milkey. So we're doing a little in costume appearance at a haunted house. I think it's called the Haunted Mansion. I have to look it up. I'll let you guys know. So I'm doing that, and that's pretty much it. I'm doing another small role in a movie, and I might be doing another one in Chicago. I have to wait. It's still in pre-production. I think they're waiting for the strike to be over so they can get everything official. So I'm doing kind of those type of things right now. I just did
It's sad how long this is going on and how many you guys are being affected by this.
So totally.
It's really insane.
Yeah, I mean, my dog was a regular on a TV show. He was on once a month, the Border Collie. They actually watched him grow from about 9 months old. Yeah. So he had a regular gig on one of the TV shows, and he's not working either, so he doesn't work. I don't get paid either because I'm his handler, obviously. Yeah. But,
that's adorable.
I don't have anything coming up until next year, probably, because everybody's booked up already. And then once I broke the shoulder, it put me out of commission to traveling. I couldn't do anything. So, yeah.
Well, you were able to come and make it here, which means the world to me. So.
Thank you. I'm so glad I was able to make it.
Absolutely. Jason.
I lied. I actually have one more question. I'm gonna kick myself I don't ask because this is a horror channel. We talked a lot about your films and all that stuff, and that's wonderful. I wish we would have been able to talk a little bit more about Girls Night Out, but that's okay.
We can do that next time.
Yeah. There you go.
So as far as, because we are such horror fanatics, I always want to ask people when they come on my channel, whenever I do any interviews, I want to know, what are your favorite horror movies? And have you seen anything recently that you loved? And I promise I will make that my last question. In the genre.
Wow, favorite horror movies. I mean, if oh gosh.
Friday
oh my gosh,
2.
you put me in a spot because I've seen so many. I do like part 6 a lot.
Okay.
I just.
So that's your favorite Friday?
I just watched
part 6.
Okay, I just watched Leatherface.
The 2017
Chainsaw, part 2. No, the older one.
Okay, part 2.
The one with Dennis Hopper.
No, early Viggo Mortensen.
Oh, that's part 3. Yeah, that's Leatherface.
Yeah, part 3. Sorry,
anyway.
part 3. Yeah,
okay.
That was pretty good. I actually watched it 3 times, which I never do.
I rarely watch a movie twice.
You must really have it.
It was just so weird. Well, I borrowed it from the library, actually. I know you can get it at the library shop.
Yeah, so there you go.
But again,
the library
The Shining. Oh, they all know me there. I helped build the new wing with my late fees. So, But yeah, The Shining is just my absolute all-time favorite, if that's considered horror. But in terms of slasher,
of course it is.
I just discovered the Texas Chainsaw.
Did you enjoy Dr. Sleep? Did you watch it?
I tried 3 times and I fell asleep.
Oh wow!
I know. I
still haven't seen it. I still haven't seen it. I haven't seen it because I wanted to read the book first, which I just bought a few months ago.
Book is really good.
That's what I wanted to read it first.
Yeah, love Carrie. Carrie, The Omen.
The Omen, I said this on my video on it, that people don't bring up The Omen a lot when talking classic horror films. You have The Exorcist, you have Halloween, you got The Thing. It's my favorite movie all time. The Shining, like we just brought. It doesn't get enough credit. The Omen.
The Omen it's so good, especially from a Catholic. Again, I tend to lean into Catholic
like
horror also,
yeah,
you know. So, you know, obviously The Exorcist, but I can't watch that over and over again. And the director, B. Harrison Smith, and I just talked about this on the podcast because it really is just so graphic, some of the scenes. I just kind of have to go like this. Jaws, love Jaws.
Yeah.
It's classic, of course.
Are you looking
but
forward
again,
to the new
Beyond
Exorcist?
American. Pardon?
Are you looking forward to the new Exorcist?
I'll wait and see. The
Yeah.
Conjuring, I'm a big Conjuring universe person too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're going to see The Nun 2 tonight.
Oh, you are?
Oh, is that coming out tonight? Or when's
Tonight,
it come out?
I-
Oh, that's right.
Oh, I got to see. I just
I
saw
see everything
Hades
open
Town on
tonight.
Broadway yesterday, so I'm kind of in
Yeah.
devil mode. So
I got to watch that too. I don't
Yeah,
know.
the
I don't
hell
really.
no.
I don't really have to watch the Nun 2. I mean, the Nun 1 I did not like at all.
No, I didn't either.
It's
it
terrible.
had its moments.
It has
I
some good
agree.
stuff, especially with Thaisa Farmiga, like Vera
Yeah, I
Farmiga's
always
sister.
liked her.
She's great. She's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do like her a lot, but I agree with you. But it did have its moments. Anytime you go on that friggin' nun's face, I have a cat that
Oh,
looks
yeah.
like the nun,
Oh, yeah.
and I got a picture of her in the bed in our guest room in a corner with her eyes just boring, those yellow eyes. And I took a picture of her and I sent it around. I said, "Fucking nun lives in our house."
And she
Yeah.
walks on all fours for some reason,
There's
just to
that's
make it
always a good
extra.
horror trope.
Just to make it extra creepy, like the spider
Yeah.
walk from the deleted scene from The Exorcist.
Yeah.
One thing you want to plug in your podcast here, so where people can see it, and I'll get a link from you and stuff after this. I'll put it in the description and everything.
Yeah, I don't do it because a lot of ladies and we don't like to wear makeup. Obviously, you can tell I'm not wearing any makeup. So we do it mostly on I do it on the phone. Also, I have a very poor internet where I live because I'm in the middle of nowhere. So I do it. It's mostly phone calls, so you're not going to see any videos. But it's called the Not the Final Girl podcast with obviously yours truly. And I have a website, laurenmarietaylor.com, or you can just click on there and it'll take you to a link with the podcasts. And if I have appearances coming up, that'll be on that too. And then I have some scenes from Neighbors, and thanks to my friend Julie Dove, who does reels for actors out in LA. She put together a cute reel with Neighbors, Girls Night Out, Loving, and of course Friday the 13th Part 2, and that's on there too, and that's
Great.
kind of fun. Yeah.
So everybody who sees this, definitely go over there and show Lauren some support. Can't thank you enough for coming on here. This has been great. And just like I said, surreal. Just
thank you.
seeing
It's
and
been great.
talking
You guys
to you
are
in
awesome.
person, and just growing up from such a young age watching these movies, and now just seeing you on the screen and talking to me, it's very surreal for sure.
Oh, thank you so much, and thank you, to all of your, your friends who sent in great questions too.
Oh,
And it's
yes.
and Jason, it's always fun to talk about Neighbors.
Absolutely.
So thank you for being a lover of Neighbors.
Yeah, shout out to my buddy Dave from Exploding Heads Horror Movie Podcast. He's also a massive fan of this film. They exist. There's not a bunch of us, but they exist.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you for humoring all my perverted
coming.
questions
Hey.
about
All right.
sex and panties.
All right. Could you do one favor for me? Could you
Yeah, sure.
say, I'm Lauren Marie Taylor. I play Vickie from Friday the 13th, and you're watching JT's Horror Discussions.
JT's Horror Discussions.
You got it.
Anytime.
Right? Yeah, go ahead.
Hey everybody, this is Lauren Marie Taylor, Vickie with those ugly brown undies from Friday the 13th Part 2, and you are listening to JT's Horror Discussions.
Awesome. That was
I should have
perfect.
taken my shirt off for that. I didn't know it was going to be in the opening of your videos.
Oh, yeah. It'll open some for sure. But yeah, I can't thank you enough, Lauren. Such a pleasure talking with you. And yeah, I'll message you after this and get the links and stuff up in the description. I should have this up in a few hours for people.
Oh, no worries. Did you want me to look into camera to do that? Because I could do it into the camera.
I think you just want the audio.
Yeah,
right?
let me look it into the camera and do it, okay?
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, ready? Hey everybody, it's me, Lauren Marie Taylor, Vickie with those ugly brown undies from Friday the 13th Part 2, and you are listening to JT's Horror Discussions.
You still got the scream.
And
You
Sinister
still got
Cinema
the
reviews.
And Sinister Cinema reviews, yes.
No.
But,
All right.
all right, I'm gonna
Thank
end this
you.
here. Just hang on for 2 seconds. So
Thank you. My husband's back in here. He wants dinner.
There you go. All right, take care, everybody.
Thanks,
And
guys. Take care.
thanks again. Take care.